Hey folks, it's about 4.5 weeks later here in the garden, and the cover crops have taken off and are doing quite well. Um, I was calling them cover crops in the last video. Cover crops are what I did over the winter. Here during the growing season, these are more like companion crops. So they're joining the cash crop, the cannabis, for the ride. So you remember in this one I planted uh, three types of clover, some peas, and hairy vetch, um, and buckwheat and radish. That's what's growing tall here. But it's doing really well. And as the plant grows in the center, I'll trim back this and chop and drop, and leave it to mulch in place, um, which will feed the soil and protect it as well. As the canopy grows, that'll also protect the soil. So everything's kind of working together here. But we were in long drought. It rained only just recently and a little bit today, but we were in a hard drought there for 6 weeks and had a heat wave, and it's been a real challenge to keep this going. Um, but it's gone and it's going well. But you'll see some mature white clover there, some hairy vetch down there. There's some red clover. Um, Here's a native fern that's offered itself. Um, But in the rain, it rained like all day. It was beautiful. It was a great way to, to break a drought. But you'll see that this buckwheat got hit pretty hard, and the radish, by slugs. It's amazing. I haven't seen a slug all season, but as soon as that rain came, they were on the scene, and I pick them off and feed them to the chickens. But you'll see that it hit some spots pretty hard, specifically in this one here. But the plant itself, the mother plant, is looking great, untouched. So that's another benefit of the cover crops. It kind of deters or distracts the pests from what you're doing there. But as I said in the video, I always make a different mix. And here I remembered I had some brassica mix that I've never used before. So I give that a go, and here's what's coming up. But it looks like some radish, some turnips, some kind of broadleaf squash or something. I don't know. But there's hairy vetch coming through in the peas, and um, again with the clover. So clover is under all of this, and as I cut it back, I'll mulch it in place. But then there'll be a little bit of clover that's going to fill the gap and then maintain that life in the soil until harvest. Now here, some really bad compost went into this one, and it's been a struggle. This plant is not doing well, and the cover crop isn't either. I don't know how well it's translating to video here, but that green is a very sort of pale green, but it is looking better than it has. Um, but you'll notice that the buckwheat is now fully out in about 30 days time. That's what it takes to see flowers on a buckwheat, so that's beautiful. And if I were to cut it down, it cuts down very, very easily, and I've done some here. Um, but it has a very delicate hollow stem. Can't seem to focus on here. Um, and then dies back pretty quickly, or breaks down and is given back to the soil. But things are off in this one, and we're doing our best. But you'll notice that I made a ring. There's no brassica in this one. This one is just buckwheat and radish. But I was started getting more intentional and put the clover in tight only, and then the rest of the mix out on the outer edge. And I kind of like that. It gives the plant up room to get established and then go. Here in this one, I really took it to extreme. So I went back to the brassica mix here, and you can see how dense that is. It's like a salad. And you can see why they use these for deer plot. A deer would love to come and stick its face in there for sure. But again, the clover is there in the open spot, and I just chop and drop as this stuff gets big and as the plant gets big. But eventually, all this radish and brassica covering will be, out of here. But in the corners, I planted things like borage, which will eventually flower and attract some beneficial insects. So as I was going, I started thinking, I think I just want to go back to my normal ways of doing this, what I've done all along, and that is to um, just do white clover. And here it is. And I'm reminded why I don't do white clover exclusively. It's very, very hard to establish, and I've never had it go smoothly. But I did on this one that really did help quite a bit. Is I mulched with a lawnmower, a push mower, some leaf litter that I had. You'll see the pine needles and broadleaf stuff. There's some maple helicopters and things like that. Um, but I mulched the seeds with that about just a very thin layer, about an inch or so, and that really helped with the germination. But you can kind of see that there's two germinations here, two phases, if not three. Um, and again, another bad compost. I'll talk about compost in another video, but compost is very important, even in a living system like this one. Um, but repeated it here again, getting really, just keeping it simple like that. And I think this is what I like in terms of a management perspective. The soil's alive. There's something's happening in it. It's covered, but it's very hard to establish. Like I said, I do have a smattering of buckwheat in here, um, but it's been very challenging in this one. But you'll see I'm doing peas and vetch are popping up around there as well. And that's kind of new in a mix. But again, focusing on the perimeter, kind of like this one, that one just looks cool. um, and then the last one here. But yeah, things are getting established and they're taking off. And these companion crops will be there to protect the soil from rain. We had rain, and you could just imagine the raindrops hitting this here. You know, they're going to be buffering that impact and really preserving the biology in the soil as well as feeding it. And it's a nice symbiosis that's going on there. But that's what these companion crops of mostly buckwheat, daikon radish, rye, or no rye, um, the brassica mix, hairy vetch, peas, all look like. With the alternative of this one is going fallow this season. I've decided to, people aren't, the demand for cannabis isn't what it once was, so I'm growing less. And so in this 5-year old hugle pot, I'm just letting it go fallow, but I'm really growing some nitrogen fixing focused things in here. I've got some sun hemp, which is a new exploration for me. Also, cow peas, which are also new. Um, and in here, I've got the hairy vetch and some of the Austrian peas and some buckwheat just for fun. Um, and I also have sorghum Sudan, which isn't germinating too well. So I'm going to get some more seed and see if I can get it going. Um, crimson clover, kitchen sink basically, but really with an emphasis on nitrogen fixers. And then come August or so, I'll take this all down and it'll join the rest of the garden with its winter cover crops coming in. But it'll be interesting to see how this grows up. And we're always talking about building the soil, but you never get to build the soil. The soil's never built. You just keep going, and that's what this is about. So it's not fallow, but it is producing, um, regenerating, and maintained alive. Here on the edge here, I've got a watermelon planted, and it can drape off, and maybe we'll get some watermelons out of the deal. So that'll be fun. So we'll see how it goes. That's the garden update for mid-June 2023.